easily. But it wasn't really as good as you think it was. Think about these Israelites in the wilderness, and they're getting restless and complaining against God. God, the one who had led them through thick and thin. Then the lesson writer admonishes us and reminds us that actually restlessness is contagious. When we read Numbers chapter 12 verse 1 to 3, we are looking at Miriam and Aaron, who spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman he had married. For he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, has the Lord really spoken through Moses? Why doesn't he speak through us also? The Lord had it. And the Bible says in verse 3, now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. Who is Moses here? He's a boy who was put into a river when he was born because they feared for his life. He was raised to be a prince, probably an heir to the throne. We don't know. Moses has been raised in Egypt. He has run away and he has realized, okay, fine, Lord, if you're willing to forgive my murdering someone and make me a leader, I will take upon myself this yoke. And so, God says, the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. What an honor, what a privilege. And then we have Aaron and Miriam, his very siblings. They were unhappy about Moses' Cushite wife. Just a brief reminder, the land of Cush is the same as Ethiopia biblically. So he has taken up a Cushite wife, Zipporah. We all know Moses' wife. She's an outsider. Remember, he married Zipporah when he had run away from Egypt. And now, even among the Israelites' elite, the fallenness of their nature was revealed, and not in a very pleasant way either. How? You remember when they had crossed the Red Sea? It was Miriam who led in a song of victory. Are we together? Who was Aaron? When Moses had complained and said, I am a stammerer, God said, don't worry, your brother Aaron is going to go and speak for you. These are people who have a very special favor, very special esteem in the land of Israel, but they have forgotten that. And they let the restlessness also get to them. Now, this biblical text clearly shows that this was a pretext. The main focus of their complaint was not just anything else but the prophetic gift. Because in the previous chapter, Moses is told to appoint 70 leaders of 70 elders who would help Moses carry out the administrative burden. Aaron and Miriam had been playing key leadership roles as well. But now they are feeling threatened by the new leaders. They feel like it belongs to the family. God called Moses, Aaron, it belongs to us. We are the ones who have brought these Israelites out of captivity. And so when other people are appointed, they are now jealous. They don't like the idea. But they have to look for an excuse to complain, and so they want to blame it on the wife. Question. Wasn't Zipporah with Moses in Egypt when he had gone to pick the Israelites? Because the Bible tells me that when he left his father-in-law's place, he went with his wife and 2 sons. Not so? She was there. We move ahead. When they are crossing the Red Sea, was she with them? Yes. When they are restless and wandering in the wilderness, is she there with them? Yes. But finally, because these people feel threatened, they decide to use her as an excuse. Dear Christian, be careful. Be careful when you want to complain. Because sometimes your excuse could have very other vague reasons and implications. So God's response was immediate and it leaves no room for interpretation. We all know what happened. God responded very decisively and Miriam was struck with leprosy and had to be segregated from the camp. You see, the prophetic gift is not a weapon to be used to wield more power. Moses was well suited for leadership because he had learned how to extremely be dependent on God and God alone. And you see the fact that Miriam is mentioned before Aaron in Numbers 12 verse 1 suggests that she may have been the instigator of the attack on Moses. At this time, Aaron was serving as Israel's high priest. If he had been struck with leprosy, he would not have been able to enter the tabernacle and minister on people's behalf. And God's punishment of Miriam with temporary leprosy communicates vividly his displeasure with both of them and helps bring about the attitude change that this family needs. You may ask yourself, but Aaron wasn't struck with leprosy. The law was, if you are a leper, you go to the high priest for examining. When he says you have leprosy, you're sent out. Do you think it was easy for Aaron to send his own sister outside of the camp? Just think of the torture it must have taken him through. So, restlessness is contagious. Restlessness, like it or not, is contagious. And sooner or later, it catches up with you, and you too, even when you think you're so okay, can easily rebel against God. You may be there wondering, how comes I've prayed, I've fasted, I've sung, but my job is not coming? Remind yourself that restlessness is contagious and it leads to rebellion. And just like that, our part of Tuesday also reminds us that restlessness leads to rebellion. And the story begins on a positive note. The Israelites have finally reached the borders of Canaan, and the 12 spies are sent to explore the land, and their report is very extraordinary. When you read Numbers 13:27 to 33, we see these 12 spies have come back. And Caleb stands up and says, we can take the land. Caleb stands up and says, yeah, we've seen the land. It's a very fertile land. It is beautiful. Oh, look at the fruit we brought back. But we can take the land. Because Caleb remembers where God has brought them from. Are we together? God has led them far, and Caleb is like, we can still trust God to lead us further. And the others stand up and they say, that is just a suicide mission. We've been there. We've seen the sons of Anak. We've seen each and every person that lives in the land, and to them we are like grasshoppers. And the question is, at which point are the expectations of the Israelites dashed? Now, the Israelites' expectations are dashed when these other spies claim that it is impossible to take over this land because, one, they said this land devours its inhabitants. Why? The people in the land of Canaan were not godly people. So much as they were fertile land, it was fruitful, they were big people, they lacked godliness. And so bloodshed was the order of the day. And these other people are like, no, if these people can kill themselves, no, we're not going. This land will swallow us too. And then they also said that they were insignificant and comparable in stature. They were as grasshoppers to the giants who dwelt in the land. They were as grasshoppers to these people. Have you ever stood next to a grasshopper? You know how tiny it is, right? And it didn't matter how Caleb tried to convince the people that the God they served was bigger and better. The Israelites, they didn't say, this part hit me so hard in this lesson. Let me just read the entire paragraph. In spite of Caleb's intervention, the voices of the doubters and skeptics prevailed. The Israelites did not set out to conquer what God had promised them. Had he promised them the land of Canaan? Yes. Had he said he'd give it to them? Yes. And when did he make this promise? Way back with Abraham. Way back. And he tells Moses, go bring my people to the land I will show you, this land that I promised your fathers. And now, this latter part of this paragraph says, restless at heart, they chose weeping and murmuring over marching and shouting for victory. Restless at heart, they chose murmuring, they chose weeping instead of marching and shouting for victory. Restlessness is going to lead you to rebellion. If you feel you're not contented with the situation in your life, try depending only on God. Because the more you try to castigate God instead, you end up falling off the trail with Him. When you're restless at heart, you struggle to walk by faith. And restlessness does not only affect our emotions alone, and scientists tell us that there is a direct line of cause and effect between too little rest, including lack of sleep, and bad choices that result into things like obesity, addictions, and more restlessness and unhappiness. It's a sad thing. You choose to be sad today, you think, maybe things are not working well for me. So you're going to end up getting jealous of people around you. So you're going to start plotting to steal your friend's money because he got a better job than yours. So you're going now to start plotting different evil things. And so when you read Numbers 14, 1 to 10, things go from bad to worse. You know? Caleb's desperate plea when he says, do not rebel against God in verse 9, was not listened to. And the entire assembly wanted to stone the leaders. You know, they were complaining and saying, you brought us here to die. Why didn't we die in Egypt? You can imagine they tried to stone their own leaders. And Sister White reminds us in Patriarchs and Prophets that the unfaithful spies were allowed in denunciation of Caleb and Joshua, and the cry was raised to stone them. The insane mob seized missiles with which to slay these faithful men. They rushed forward with yells of madness when suddenly the stones dropped from their hands. A hush fell upon them. They shook with fear. God had interposed to check their murderous design. The glory of His presence, like a flaming light, illuminated the tabernacle. All people beheld the signal of the Lord. A mightier one than they had revealed Himself, and none dared continue their resistance. The spies who brought the evil report crouched, terror-stricken, and with bated breath sought their tents. You can imagine these people decided not to believe in God, and when He manifests Himself, the only thing they could do was tuck their tails between their legs and run for it. They had decided to murder people who were righteous. They had decided to kill Joshua and Caleb for saying, no, we stand on the side of God. Restlessness is going to cause you to rebel. Restlessness will cause you to be discontent. Restlessness will cause you envy and jealous. Restlessness will cause you lack of peace. Restlessness is not a good thing at all. You know, if we are to put into context, I just love always imagining how Bible stories would play out, like if I was to be right there, how they would play out. I'm Caleb, standing next to Joshua, and these people want to kill us, and the glory of God shines bright around us. In this moment, we are feeling, you know, God has intervened on our behalf, and the others are running. Oh, probably I'm on the other side, and I wanted to stone them. And I don't know if you know, for all, I think it's a thing for all African mothers to be particular. In Uganda, when you do something wrong and they punish you with the eye, you know, even when you hide behind the wall, you can feel the eye is looking at you. So God is right there, His presence is manifest, and I'm right there. I'm trying to run away from it, but I know I cannot run away from it. How sad that is. And so we go on and we look at part Wednesday, and we're looking at Moses as an intercessor. And God is like, I'm tired of these people. They are restless, they are rebellious. I'm going to wipe them away. And Moses, I'll make of you a nation that will love me. And God offers Moses an opportunity to make of him a new, bigger nation after destroying the Israelites for their disobedience and lack of faith. I'm imagining if God told me, Derek, I want to bless you so much and give you this whole world, forget about the other people. The selfish human that I am, I'm sure, would be very, 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 very glad to say, yeah, do it, Lord. You know, I mean, come on, why not? But that is not who Moses was. Moses decides, and he says something very, very specific and peculiar in verses 13 to 19 of Numbers 14. And I want us to read there. This intercession. Now Moses is reasoning with God. Question. Is Moses any bigger or better than God? No. But he's reasoning with God. And this is the beauty about God. When he says, come now and let us reason together, he means it. That might have been Isaiah way later than Moses, but God meant it even from the start. Even when he came to the garden to talk to Adam and Eve, and he said, where are you? All he wanted them to do was to give him an opportunity to dialogue, to talk, instead of hiding and throwing accusations left and right. So Moses reasons with God, and he says, the Egyptians will hear it. For by your might you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land. They have heard that you, Lord, are among these people, that you, Lord, are seen face to face, and your cloud stands above them, and you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Now if you kill these people as one man, then the nations which have heard of your fame will speak, saying, because the Lord was not able to bring these people to the land which he swore to give them, therefore he killed them in the wilderness. And now I pray, before I proceed, you notice that it's not like if God was to do this, he would need someone to justify his name. Are we together? God doesn't need an orator because he knows what to say. God doesn't need an attorney or a judge. He's the judge of, he's the chief justice of the entire universe. God doesn't need an army to fight his war. God doesn't need you to reason him out for him to understand he's doing something amiss. No, that's not who God is. And now Moses adds this because he understands who God is. He says, and now I pray, let the power of my Lord be great, just as you have spoken, saying, the Lord is long-suffering and abundant in mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression. But he by no means clears the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. Verse 19, pardon the iniquity of these people, I pray, according to the greatness of your mercy, just as you have forgiven these people from Egypt until now. Had God been patient with the Israelites? Very patient. Keeping in mind that he brought them out of Egypt at a time whereby they had even started forgetting who God was. In Egypt, the Pharaoh at the time was also a god. In Egypt, ancient Egypt, cats are gods. In ancient Egypt, they had all sorts of gods. Ra, this, that, And the Israelites are starting to adopt the culture. But God is like, I'll bring my people out and I'll remind them I'm their God. They make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and he's there forgiving and providing and forgiving and providing. Just ask yourself, how great has been God's mercy in your life? How many times have you gone amiss? I can talk of myself. I won't talk about you, my dear viewer. No, I'll talk about myself. I can look back into my life at the number of times I've gone astray from the Lord, and he has not let me alone. There are so many. And Moses implores God on that note and says, I pray, forgive according to the greatness of your mercy. God says, come now, let us reason together. He also reminds us again that we now have a high priest in Jesus Christ in heaven. Moses interceded for these people in the wilderness. But when Jesus died and arose and went to heaven and went into the most holy of places, he went there to intercede for you and for me. And all he wants you to do is to accept that his intercession is enough. And Moses believed that if he interceded, having found favor in the eyes of the Lord would listen. And does God listen? Yes. This is the moment that we can see the true man of God. Moses' answer frozen into time anticipates the intercessor who more than 1,400 years later would pray for his disciples and their afflictions in John 17. When he reminds and says, Lord, in verse 4 he says, I have glorified you on the earth, I have finished the work which you have given me to do. And now, O Father, glorify me together with yourself, with the glory which I had with you before this world was. He's praying and he's saying, yes, this glory before the world was, use it even today. And that prayer still stands true for us today. What Moses did here, many theologians and Bible students have seen as an example of what Christ does for us. Their guilt, our guilt, is not even questioned. And yet Moses pleads, saying, according to the greatness of your mercy, please forgive these people. And did God forgive? Yes. Did God wipe away the Israelites? No. Did God make of Moses an entire nation on its own? No. Why? Because Moses claimed the merits of God's grace and interceded for these people. And you know, there is nothing better than knowing that I can reason with God. I mean, who am I? Who are you? What have you done for God really that you feel is so important that God should just forgive you anyhow and anywhere? Nothing. But the Lord intercedes. Sorry, Jesus intercedes for you and for me right now, like Moses did those many years ago. And finally, we look at part